Hey, it's your boy Sean, and this is Supercar from the Hood. And on today's episode, we're going to be talking about the top 5 supercar concepts of the 90s. The reason I'm doing this is because Monday is usually a WTF car episode, and I've been keeping close to that schedule that I set up for myself about a year ago. So to celebrate that, I'm going to do this list. Now, I won't call it the comprehensive list of concept supercars from the 90s because I do not know them all, and this might need an update when I go to learn more of the cars that came out during that era. So I know you guys are tired of me running my mouth, so I'll get straight to the point and start with number 5. And number 5, we have the Mercedes-Benz C112. The C112 is the oldest car on today's list, having been unveiled in 1991, and this car is very interesting design-wise. The design looks very similar to the Acura NXS, which came out the year before, and it is the first Mercedes since the 300 SL to have gold wing doors. Yes, this car that was never released had the legendary gold wing doors on it. And it had the looks to compete with the Honda NXS, which was a big deal at the time. This car was actually pretty advanced for its time as well. It had the active wing, air brake wing that wasn't seen again until the SLR McLaren, which is, many years down the road. This car had over 400 horsepower and had a top speed of 192 miles per hour, which is why it's at the bottom of today's list, even though it is one of my favorite concept cars of the 90s. Next at number 4, we have the BMW Nazca C2, and this car is a pretty breathtaking car at first glance. I will say that this car was designed by Ital Design by Giugiaro, and I'm hoping I didn't butcher that, even though I'm 100% sure I did. This car is striking from certain angles, and when you get to that side angle, that's when stuff starts getting messy, but that's neither here nor there. This car had a V12 that made 350 horsepower, which was pretty significant at the time. It had a top speed of 193 miles per hour, which is why it's ahead of the C112 that started today's list. And interestingly enough, this car also featured gold wing doors like the C12. Both cars also releasing in 1991, which is either coincidence or, somebody's doing a lot of head games between Mercedes and BMW, which I kind of appreciate because the competition makes for a better car for people like us. Next at number 3, we have the Bentley Inaros, and I'm not gonna ever try to pronounce that name ever again until I do the video for it later. The Inaros was the Bentley that no one expected from Bentley. This mid-engine supercar had a 600 horsepower coming out of a W16 with a top speed of 217 miles per hour. And that's right, you heard correctly. This car had a W16 Volkswagen signature engine that you can also find in the Bugatti Veyron and Chiron. Now, is it the same W16? I highly doubt it, but this car was a precursor to those cars, even though Bugatti had been developing the Veyron about the same time this car was announced in 1999. At number 2, we have the Volkswagen W12. Now, this car is pretty amazing. Volkswagen wanted to show that they too can build an insane supercar. So in the late 90s, they did just that, with the final version coming out in 2001. The Nardo version was the most extreme version. It had 591 brake horsepower with 458 pound-foot of torque and a 0 to 60 time of 3.5 seconds, which was amazingly fast for that era. At 221 miles per hour, this car would be one of the fastest cars still to this day, which makes it a shame that this car was never built, but as we all know, the VW group had something else cooking in the bag. And before I let this go, tell me, am I the only person that sees a little Noble 600 in this car? The Noble take this design and steal it from Volkswagen, or did they pay for it? Did Volkswagen even realize that their car was on the road? I'm just saying it looks like that car. And finally, at number 1, we have the Ford GT90. Now, it should be no surprise that this car is number 1 because it is truly insane. A quad turbocharged V12 that made 720 horsepower with a top speed of 253 miles per hour. Now, this is possibly the fastest hypercar to never be built. And if you want to know the full story of this car, I made a video about it last year. Links in the description, and it could give you most of the details that I could find on the internet. And I honestly believe if this car was actually built, that its legacy would match even the McLaren F1, because it was just as fast, actually faster, and though not as beautiful, was just as stunning in its own way. You know, hats off to Ford for coming up with the idea. Too bad they didn't stick with it, and this car could have been amazing for that Ford GT line. Even if they only had built 5, it still would have been, you know, one of the greatest things that ever happened in the car industry. With that said, I like to bring this video to a close. I'm probably gonna make another list or a similar list to this one for you guys, because I really do enjoy making these lists, even though it doesn't seem like people care to watch them. It's just something fun to do, and it's giving me the renewed energy to keep going with these WTF cars as I discover more cars to talk about. And with all that said, if you like the video, like the video. If you dislike the video, dislike the video. If you want to see what I got planned next, come see what I got planned next. Got a lot of stuff for this channel. Really want you guys to be there with me. With that said, I'll catch you next time.